Singular honor to participate in this graduation ceremony, paying official homage to the 105 mayors, speakers, and municipal managers. As a representative of SALGA and UCLG, allow me to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our partners who have steadfastly supported this leadership program in municipal governance. We look forward to working together with the School of Governance, the WITS School of Governance, the LGC and other partners, including the Moral Regeneration Movement. There is a need to expand the leadership in municipal governance program, and in so doing realize in action the guiding motto of the WITS School of Governance, to focus on building capacity for governance, whilst also seeking ways to getting to grips with the wicked problems that beset governance in South Africa, whether at local, provincial, national, or continental levels. To the lecturers and graduates, we celebrate your achievements at a time when the world, through the United Nations High-Level Political Forum that is hosted by the President of the General Assembly, is reviewing over the next 2 weeks the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, with particular reference to Goal 7 and Goal 11. To remind us all, Goal 11 states that as we work towards 2030, we need to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. I thus thought it would be appropriate to focus my input today on the need to and how we, as part of the global family of nations, can and should integrate the Sustainable Development Goals and the implementation thereof to our own integrated development plans, which are essentially central tools and a framework to determine the needs of and solutions for municipal development. You may legitimately ask, what are these Sustainable Development Goals and why, and how they relate to the functioning of local government. Linked to this is the attendant question on the relevance, if any, of the SDGs for better improving effective governance and sustainable management of service delivery at the local sphere of government. Whilst we as a country are not reporting on progress in this round of the United Nations High-Level Political Forum, we, through the Global Task Force of Local and Regional Governments, led by UCLG, will be an integral part of assessing how our countries, and indeed local and regional governments themselves, are progressing in our collective objective of creating sustainable human settlements and habitats. As we always state in the local government fraternity, Goal 11 should not be seen in isolation of the other global goals, and indeed the interlinked global development agenda that links the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Accord on Climate Change, the New Urban Agenda, the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development. Coming back to the next 2 weeks, the global family of nations, through the United Nations, will be considering in particular progress with regards to the implementation of 2 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, namely Goal 7, which is to provide access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all, and Goal 11, which is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Ladies and gentlemen, as you would see in the goals being reviewed, for us as a country, the review would be primarily about the work that we, in the sector of local government, align it to our constitutional mandate and responsibility. Needless to say, if you were to do a detailed analysis of the SDGs, 60% of these place local government as an integral player in achieving our collective and multilateral commitments to create a better and more just world. Taking directly from the preamble of the SDGs, our leaders committed that, and I quote, "This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace in larger freedom. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development," close quote. As you know, in 2015, South Africa is part of the global community and a proud and committed advocate of global good governance, actively participated in the negotiations and took upon itself to better the lives of its citizens and unleash the capabilities of its communities. We made this commitment fully cognizant of the structural hurdles and wicked problems standing in our way, such as rapid urbanization, increased intra-migration, water scarcity, limited financial resources, enlarged energy demands, and capacity challenges at municipal level. In making this undertaking to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, local government was prioritized to bring about integrated and inclusive development, which places a duty on the leaders gathered and graduating today to assume the role of placing the institutions you lead at the beachhead of creating a better planet and prosperity for all. This role you assume because local government and sustainable development are intricately linked. You know better than anyone that, as stated by the UN, that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Ladies and gentlemen, more specifically in this year where all South Africans are urged to commemorate in selfless action the centenary of former President Nelson Mandela, and in the week prior to the world celebrating Mandela Day, the role of mayors, speakers, municipal managers, and practitioners in the sector has become greater and more pressing. The responsibility is placed firmly on your shoulders as you are at the forefront of developing and implementing the IDPs that, amongst others, promote inclusive growth, increase infrastructure investment, and improve governance. The challenges that you have to deal with and concomitantly find appropriate means to transcend include, for example, a decline in national economic growth, a shrinking revenue base, tight fiscal austerity measures justifiably enforced by Treasury and COGTA, etc. Distinguished guests and friends, as SALGA, we opposite measures we have put in place to deal with some of the challenges or wicked problems mentioned above. I have no doubt in my mind that we at SALGA have a duty to support, network, and build capacity, and also create appropriate platforms for us to undertake these daunting tasks. In March this year, as you would recall, in line with Goal 7 listed above, we hosted the Energy Summit, working closely with diverse stakeholders drawn from academia, business, and civil society. At this summit, we made a number of commitments about not just the energy challenges we confront today, but the energy future in our cities and for our communities. This we did fully aware of our duty to our own people and economy, yet also cognizant of our commitment to all of humanity and the planet we live in. In June this year, we then went on to host the Municipal Finance Conference. It is important to take note of the fact that this conference took place informed by the groundbreaking 2015 Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development, in the main as a social compact by the international community to set up social protection systems, and national spending, with national spending targets for essential services like health and education. Specifically referring to local government, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda states in paragraph 34 that we further acknowledge that expenditures and investments in sustainable development are being devolved to the subnational level, which often lacks adequate technical and technological capacity. It is thus that as the South African Local Government Association, we are proud to have partnered with WITS University and the School of Governance to ensure that we build the necessary capability and capacity of both our political and technical representatives in the sector to improve the performance of the sector. By way of concluding, it is important to note that as we set out to fully implement the SDGs, it means that we are only left with 12 years. Will we succeed or fail to reach the mark as we did with the Millennium Development Goals, or will we, as part of the global community of nations, put shoulder behind the wheel in the institutions that we lead to put capacity and capability to bear to create a better world, a better planet, and a better humanity?